All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here. It's all part of the Believe Network. We've got tons of great content, and as you know, this show is available on your podcast platforms, whether you listen on Apple, Spotify, or elsewhere. It's good to be in the game with Tennis Channel Inside In as we gear up for, God, we're going on month 11 of the tennis season. It keeps going. We've got the finals coming up. We've got one more Masters event for the men, and we've got a lot to talk about for the women. Joining me now, international commentator, former player, a lot going on. One of the favorite guests on the show, and one of the people I like talking to the most. It's Candy Reid. Candy, welcome back to the podcast. It's always fun to catch up and talk tennis.
Thanks, Mitch. Your check is in the mail. I appreciate that intro. You know how this goes on. So the more compliments you get, your salary goes up. So well done.
Well, got a few more to run through then because we gotta upgrade the studio. No, everything's been good. It's been fun. Just checking in too before we dive into last week's events and where we are. How have you been holding up with this long season? Because I know you travel a lot, and I know you're on the grind. And another trip to Asia, which was lovely. And how have you been holding up as we gear up for the final push in 2025?
Well, it's a long one, isn't it? And I think the more you're in this sport, and I'm sure you agree, how incredibly long and tiring it is. Now, I'm not saying that in a disparaging way at all, because I absolutely love it. And it's great job creation for us, for those who play, who aren't at the top of the game and need the paychecks coming in, they need the points. But I think every day I'm in this sport, you realize what incredible athletes these people are, how much work they put into it. And we say when we're on site, there's a 4 o'clock start, let's just say, because often in tennis, as we know, you don't get an absolute start unless you're playing first on. But the players will get there 4 or 5 hours before they start playing matches. They're there in the gym, they're warming up, they're getting some food, they're resting with their team, they're back in the gym, they're back on the court, they're traveling from here, they're getting some more physio. It's just bonkers. And then, of course, you've got to talk about who you're playing, when you're playing, why you're playing, what you did yesterday that you want to do better today. It's just so exhausting. So I'm just in awe, I think, even more than I was yesterday and the day before of these fantastic players. No matter what the ranking, I've just finished, I don't know if you've read it, the Conor Nyland book. And I love it because even though I stopped after I played at a university in the States, so many of the things he writes about, the ways you feel, especially the people that don't get to the top and are going around what used to be called the satellite and now the future and challenger level. You just understand the graft and how much you're putting into it and all the emotions, the ups and downs and the craziness and the small checks you get that just keep you going, and you need a sponsor and you need someone to keep encouraging you, and you feel so bad and then you feel so great, and it's just bonkers, Mitch, but I love it.
No, I love it too. I'll have to, that book's on my radar. I haven't read it yet, but I'll have to. I do think though, you bring up a point about that I wasn't really considering, but I think that because the quote unquote minor leagues, there's more money involved, more revenue. I think there is a direct correlation, just my opinion, on the depth of talent in the game. I mean, with Vacherot winning and some of these players coming through, the women's game is deeper than ever. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that players aren't forced to tap out earlier than maybe they were decades past.
So true. Players now playing well into their 30s, aren't they? On the women's side, they can freeze their eggs now, which I think has given them more longevity in the sport. There's not such a rush to get to the top of the game. I think that's really healthy, that more players are choosing the US college route. Or even if they don't have to be top 20 by the time they're 18, which is what was the case when I was growing up. I was told, and most of my contemporaries were told, that if you weren't winning satellites at 15, or it was 10 and then 25, within 3 months of starting pro, you weren't going to make it. I was literally told that, and it's such rubbish. It's absolute garbage. But if in the back of your mind, if enough people tell you that, you start to believe it. And so you think, well, I'm 19 and I'm 500 in the world, therefore I've got no chance. And that's, again, total rubbish, because it is about the long game, like investing, of which I love doing. You're looking over 20, 30 years, and tennis is a little bit shorter, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. And again, the more we watch, even though you've got the Iva Jovic's and the Carlos Alcaraz's, those players that just come out of the gates so quickly and brilliantly, they are the rarity. They're not the norm. So for everybody else, keep plugging away.
You were kind of ahead of your time as well, Candy, with going to college, because I've talked to many people overseas, even some Aussies, that played back in the day when it wasn't a viable path. Now, it's funny how so many former pros, expert commentators, even now will say, "Oh, I wish I would have had the college option, or someone would have informed me how much better it could have been." So, head
I
of your
always
path with
ask
the
that.
balls. Yeah.
Yeah, I always ask that to my fellow commentators that haven't gone and said, why didn't you go? And a lot of the reason is because, I thought it was going to be a dead end route and I was just going to be an average player. But most of them, I agree, do say, I wish I'd done at least a year. And that's a viable option. A lot of colleges, I know of one men's college in the Southeast Conference that actually are encouraging players to leave after 2 years. That's what the coach says. He says, I want to make you into the best player possible, finish top 10 in the NCAAs. You get all this acceleration into challenger level and really high level futures tournaments. Automatically, we'll provide you with an amazing base. So come for 1 or 2 years, then go pro. We're all for it. So it's a great option either way, whatever you do, 1 or 4 years. It's just the best option possible. And I loved my time at University of Tennessee.
We certainly are in favor of that as well here on this show. And we'll get to the finals this week in just a second. But you brought up somebody's name. I know we all talk about Alcaraz, but it sounds like you're pretty high on the Iva Jovic train. She won her first title this year, winning in Mexico. There's no such thing as a can't miss prospect, Candy, but she seems very close what her game is at her age and how every time we see her, it seems like she's getting better and adapting.
That is a brilliant point, Mitch. Every time you see her, she's getting better. And she's not blessed with height or incredible physique. She's a very regular looking girl. She looks actually very like my daughter, just a lot more muscular, I think, at this point, because, of course, they spent a lot of time in the gym. I know her coach really well, Tom Gutteridge. He's done a phenomenal job with her. He speaks of her so highly, and her parents. Her dad was actually there in Guadalajara tournament she won at altitude, her first ever WTA Tour title, 500 level. It's absolutely astonishing. I think she's now 17. But I actually met her for the first time face to face in Cincinnati, and she just seemed like a very nice, reasonable girl, someone that could look you in the eye and have a conversation. It wasn't particularly in depth, but it was just nice that she smiled and acknowledged someone who, was unknown to her. I think she loves the sport. She wants to get better. She's always asking to get out on the practice court. And Tom, I know, has to kind of pull her back, rein her back. And that's important because we all know you need a coach that isn't going to push you too much, because if you work too hard, you can definitely overdo it and get injured. And we all know that injuries, as I'm sure we'll speak about with the Holger Rune incident, are a massive problem for all the tennis players, because you're an independent contractor. No one's paying you if you're sitting out of the game. No one's giving you points if you're out of the game. You're losing everything. And time is just awful at that level, because, of course, you build up this great base. You get to this level and then the injury just brings you right down. And the worst thing, I think, Mitch, is the confidence, because you have to build that again. And that takes a long, long time.
Yeah, there's part of the injury muscle memory, too, where it's the fear of, am I going to push too hard and hurt myself? And then you have to get over the mental block, which we've seen that can be overwhelming for a lot of players. So regardless, I'm a huge fan of Iva Jovic. It's funny that we get to this point of the year, Candy, and we can transition into some of the finals. But there's players that you're looking at for success this year, but you're also looking down the road like, oh, this player could be, someone to watch. And I had that thought during the Osaka final. Props to Leylah Fernandez for winning it. But Valentinova is somebody that I'm a huge fan of. The Czech teen, 18 years old, gets bageled in that first set, still fights. I think she has a lot of flair in her game. So, I put Jovic, I put Valentova, I put these players in that category of, I think we shouldn't forget who they are, because 26, 27 and beyond, I think they're going to be factors.
First came to knowledge really watching Tereza Valentova closely at this year's US Open. What an astonishing player. She just looks like she's got the whole package. She's got a big game off the ground, good serve, she volleys well, has a nice drop shot to her. I'm just looking at her results, 50 victories this season. She's at a career high 57 in the world as we speak today. And her results, as you say, just coming thick and fast. She got to the final of Osaka from qualifying. That's unbelievable. The results at the US Open were fabulous, where she qualified. We know how tough that is to win 3 matches with so much on the line. Then she beat Lucia Bronzetti, lost to Elena Rybakina 3-6. And Rybakina, I think, Mitch, is a really good litmus test, isn't it, of where the players are. Someone that Jovic has played a couple of times and hasn't done particularly well with. But Valentova pushed her really hard in the second set, because Rybakina doesn't give you anything, does she? She's not this emotional roller coaster. She doesn't really mind playing the young players. You can see a lot of the time, and I speak to Mark Gellard, who's the coach of Magdalene, and the older players, sometimes when they play these teenagers, it's horrendous. And I remember that from my career at a much lower level. But whenever you're older playing someone much younger, you're sort of very fearful because pride's at stake. It's much worse losing to someone really young. But Rybakina doesn't seem to have that fear factor. So neither of those young players have beaten her. But, you know, Valentova got really, really close, which is impressive. She's just a fantastic player, and another one off the Czechia treadmill, isn't she? That she seemed to produce them year after year.
Yeah, she's probably going to find a way to win a major just because that's what they do, and the Czech players. But no, I think she has flair, and I think her game speaks volumes. And look, Leylah Fernandez was tough, and, you know, props to Leylah for winning that title. She's playing some of the best tennis that we've seen her play easily since that U.S. Open, but she's got the second title after winning the City Open in D.C. this year. And Candy, what I like about Leylah, we know what she doesn't have in terms of size and strength, but the lefty game is frustrating. She gains confidence very quickly in these tournaments. It's funny how she can go from shaky early on, or we're not sure what her form is, to just playing downhill and being, you know, a quote unquote giant killer. So Leylah's somebody that I think people maybe forget about what she can do, and how she stepped right back onto the court, beat Maria Sakkari last night as we record this. So again, full marks to Leylah for just competing out there.
Well, you're right. Size is not her friend, is it? So she has to play a very clever game. She plays pretty close to the baseline. The serve has been a major, major weakness. I don't really like her technique. They've obviously messed around with it a lot. It just seems like everything's just slightly wrong. Of course, Dad Jorge is now very much on the sidelines as coach, whereas before, years past, Fernandez always had someone else. But that seems to be working up to a point. It's always difficult, isn't it? The parent-coach dynamic, because you're kind of in each other's pockets, and where do you let it go? You know, on the car ride home, do you keep talking about it at the dinner table? And so I think there needs to be some separation, but maybe they've got a good chemistry and a good balance there. I think she's just such a clever player, Leylah Fernandez, and I think she's a lovely, lovely girl, having met her a few times. Just really personable, one of those players that just smiles and seems to be enjoying her life out there. So it's lovely to see her doing so well. As you said, 2 titles this season. That's just incredible for someone of her stature. And she's just so intelligent. She moves the ball around. She gives the opponent what they don't want. If she could just really fix that serve, I mean, maybe a top 10 is there. She's just been outside, hasn't she, as a career high? I believe 13 is her best ranking. It'd be astonishing if she could, given her size. But I mean, she's a smart girl, and she's got the best out of herself so far.
Certainly has. It's been interesting to watch her development. Yeah, the serve part of it's fascinating too, because if you watch the 2 women's finals over the weekend, you go right from that to the 500 in Ningbo with Alexandrova and Rybakina. So you go from maybe serves could be better to this is elite level serving on the WTA tour. It's hard to find a better serve matchup than Rybakina Alexandrova.
Alexandrova has one of those really peculiar serves where she hits it so flat. She doesn't know what a kick serve is. But the first serve is just incredibly flat, and the second serve's got flat and slice on it, so it stays so low.
Well, do you think that's part of like what? And that's a great point, Candy. Like I wonder if that's why Rybakina and other players maybe are able to figure out her game as it goes along. Like Rybakina loses the first set, but looked pretty dominant in sets 2 and 3, winning that title.
I think actually Rybakina loves a hard flat ball. There's nothing better for Rybakina. What you've got to do against her is sort of slice and cut the ball short. Don't you throw the ball up? And that's not something that Alexandrova is going to do. Those 2 women are 2 of the biggest hitters on the tour, and they play quite similarly, don't they?
Yeah.
I think Rybakina's just got a little bit more edge, maybe moves a little bit better, and has a few more little aspects to her game. And of course, she's a major champion, so that puts her in the next category. But Alexandrova, I've seen her just demolish opponents. But on the other side, I've seen her just kind of fall apart. So you never quite know. And that's what makes her really difficult to play against. Everyone knows that if she's on a game, you've got no chance.
I like how Rybakina moves. It's a little unorthodox. She's got some easy power where she just kind of like flicks her wrist and is able to just generate a lot of heat. And how she's played right now, still alive. It's going to come down to her and Mirra Andreeva for the WTA Finals, which tale of 2 stories of how their years have gone, especially the last couple. But for Rybakina to be back in the mix, to try to get some semblance back, she missed a lot of time. I think that's part of her story that doesn't get talked about enough, is just how unavailable she was. I think the game's better for her being in the mix. I think she provides a good dynamic at the top of the sport, and we'll see what happens. But if she makes it through, again, Leylah Fernandez is in her path, but if she wins a couple matches this week, she'll be back in the WTA Finals, which is kind of remarkable to say the least.
And rightly so, right? I mean, everyone is expecting Rybakina to be there. She is a world-class player, Wimbledon champion, only 26 years of age. And I think now everything in the personal life seems to have settled down. I don't really know much about it, but Stefanov Fukov, we know, is back in the box legitimately. So now she's back to winning ways. She looks just a lot happier to me. I actually saw her lose a match. I think it was last year at Cincinnati to Leylah Fernandez. And it was just a catastrophe from both of them. And Rybakina looked like she did not want to be there. She looked so pale and unhappy. And Fernandez was double faulting left, right, and centre. It was just one of those matches you just think, oh, this is awful. And I've got to talk it through and I've got to be positive in some way. But these people are human beings. So they can't just play 70 matches all season just wonderfully and with nothing going on in their personal life and, you know, fully healthy. It's just completely not going to happen. But Rybakina, to me, is just a phenomenal player. I think everyone is scared of playing her. She's a player that can simply win like Ekaterina Alexandrova, but she has done it at the very highest level. And I think Rybakina's got to win more majors, hasn't she? Wouldn't you say so?
I think so. I mean, it's what Lindsay Davenport told me once, that her toss is what makes the serve so lethal, is that she can disguise it so well, and it's hard to get a read on it. And I just think she'll be in the mix, right? There's 4 majors a year. You got to figure that Rybakina's got a baseline game, not in the literal sense, but a game that's going to keep her in the mix. So I would say healthy, fit, and enjoying the game, she's going to win a couple more, but it's the beauty of this sport. I do want to ask you, though, Candy, what has gone wrong? What is up, so to speak, with Mirra Andreeva? Because it hasn't been good recently. And, you know, for her to miss the WTA Finals is kind of remarkable in the other direction, that she's bottomed out a little bit. But what's gone wrong? We all saw how well she played the start of her career and the start of this year. But what's been the problem for Mirra recently?
Yeah, it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because, as you said, I actually picked her to win the Roland Garros tournament this year. I thought she might go far, second week of Wimbledon. She's one of those players that I think now we're talking about as a major contender, but results have gone downhill quite rapidly. And I think she is very emotional. We saw her in Ningbo last year at 500 level in the final against Daria Kasatkina, and she was just all over the place. I mean, she was crying and very upset and up and down. And Kasatkina won that match. I think it was from match points down. It was just crazy. And then Kasatkina was consoling Andreeva about what had happened. She's so young, isn't she? And we're already speaking about her in such glowing ways. There's perhaps so much pressure on her shoulders. She's now expecting herself to win a major, and when she doesn't, it's disappointing. So I think just pull back. I hope that she doesn't break up with Conchita Martinez, because I think that's easy to do on the WTA's tour side of things. We see that a lot, don't we? Things start to go downhill, let's split. And I don't think that's the solution. If you look at all the good players, really, they have solid teams around them that they built for some time, because you need, even though you get that coaching bounce quite a lot of the times when a new coach comes on and you'll suddenly see this rise, then it comes back down to earth quite quickly. So I think you've got to stay around. You've got to trust your team. And let's hope that Andreeva does that. I think a lot of what she does is probably orchestrated by her family, because she is so young. So it won't be just her decision. But I do hope that they stick with Conchita and maybe just pull back for the rest of the season. Give Mirra a little bit more time just to rest. You've got plenty of time. Don't rush. Like we were speaking about earlier, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't need to win majors before you're 20.
Yeah, 2 and 3 since the U.S. Open. And winning Indian Wells is what kind of got us to this point where yourself and a lot of other people said, okay, major champ this year because of how she won Indian Wells. Hasn't gotten to a semifinal since then. So that's been the story. And for me on the outside, Candy, my observation is there's an unraveling factor that's hard to watch. A lot of players are going to lose. You mentioned it with Rybakina Fernandez, that match. Like, there's going to be bad days at the office, and it's just not going to happen. But we've seen a couple times this year where Mirra loses, and it just looks bad. Like, she unravels, she gets frustrated, emotional. So we hope she can, improve, and, with age and experience and that continuity, like you said, with Conchita Martinez, we hope that gets there. On the flip side, though, a player that did qualify, Jamsine Paolini, I want to give her a shout out because she's back to the finals, singles and doubles again. But in a way, and I know it might sound odd, but I'm as much impressed with this year as I was last year, Candy, because she made 2 major finals, had this dream year, leveled up. it's so hard, and you know this, to back up that generational year and prove you're not just a flash in the pan. For her getting back to the tour finals really does validate a lot of what we said about her and the fact that it wasn't just a fluke and that she is a legit top 10 player now.
Yeah. I was a little bit worried about Jamsine because of her coaching situation. She was with Renzo Furlan for an awful long time. And I was so shocked that they split up after, as you said, 2 major finals in 2024. Then she jumped on with Mark Lopez, didn't she, and had some success with him. He was on Rafa Nadal's coaching team, a really good friend of his. And I thought that might go the distance. Something happened. I don't know what it is. I don't have any inside information. And then I was actually speaking to Danilo Pizzorno, who's the former coach of Ludmila Samsonova, and he sent me a text and said, I'm now with Jamsine. And I thought, okay, well, Jamsine has made a really good decision there because I think Danilo is a fellow Italian, and I think that really does help. We see Jamsine along with the other Italians. They're very close together. They seem to stay with each other during tournaments and hang out. So I think having another Italian on the bag is a really good thing. Danilo really knows his stuff. What a charming and nice guy. And he really believes in kind of fluidity. You'll see, well, when he was working with Samsonova, they were working on just a lot of rhythm drills. So he would bounce her a ball, she would serve, bounce the ball, serve, just continue, and just find that form, find that contact point, find the confidence. And so he is a great voice, I think, in the Paolini camp. So amazing. And she, you were talking about Rybakina being good for the game. How good is Jamsine Paolini for the game? She's got the megawatt smiles, and she's just so exciting. She looks like she really loves it. She's kind of been getting into the veteran age, I suppose, if you could call it that. Seems very young, but I hope all the best for her because she just makes the WTA tour even better.
It's the power of positivity, right? And I've also heard players be jealous. They're like, we love Jamsine, but I wish I could be that positive in a tight match.
Well, there's something to be said for that because I had a terrible attitude when I was playing. And as I got older, I got a little bit better at being kind to myself and smiling, and it helps so much. But it's so easy to forget. So good for Jamsine. I mean, she is putting it on a little bit because if you ask any tennis player, if you're deep in the depths of despair, you don't want to smile. You've got to force it. And it is nervous, and you're stressed, and you're anxious, and you're worried about the next point, and you're thinking, oh, the confidence is my backhand there. I've missed 2 in a row, or can I serve? And it's just all these things go on in your head. So the fact that she can laugh and smile just relieves the pressure. I mean, the science is there for everyone to see, but it's one thing to say it and one thing to do it, and she can do it, and the results coming thick and fast once again, which is brilliant.
We got more with Candy Reid here on the Inside in Tennis podcast, talking with the international commentator, broadcaster about all the tennis storylines as we gear up for the final month of the season. On the men's side, we saw 3 interesting finals. I'm going to start with this one, Candy, because it was one of my favorite matches to watch, but I love the action in Kazakhstan between Medvedev and Mute. You talked about at the beginning of the show about athleticism, watching these guys, watching how athletic they were in this match. And I also just like the contrast in styles. You can use the phrase cat and mouse or just variants out there, but I loved watching them play. In the end, it was Medvedev getting his 21st career title and his first in 29 months. A big result for Medvedev. Who says that a 250 isn't important? This was a big result for his confidence going forward.
He really needed that, didn't he, Daniil Medvedev? I think everyone was a bit uncertain what was going to happen when he broke up with Gilles Savara, that long-time partnership that, of course, brought him a US Open title and so much success. Difficult, I'm sure, for Medvedev and, of course, Savara to sort of work things out after that and find their feet. But Medvedev obviously felt at this point in his career it was the right choice. I think if you can criticise Daniil, it will probably be that he's a little bit one-dimensional, and that's really maybe tough of me to say. Maybe stubborn, but he doesn't want to come to the net, does he? He's allergic, a little bit like Andrei Rublev and Alexander Zverev. They're much happier hitting balls from the baseline, and maybe Medvedev's just been found out just a little bit because he plays that way so deep in the court, and he doesn't really want to come forward. But I don't want to be at all disrespectful for Daniil Medvedev because he's got such an unusual game. He's so brilliant to watch. He's probably the guy, along with Taylor Fritz, in my opinion, that analyzes matches so well. His chat after the matches are the number one, aren't they? They're just so good. The way he looks and thinks about it, he never gives a stupid answer. You know, he's never rude to the people that ask him. Even we ask him a stupid question, he will answer it very professionally. I just think he is incredible. His game style is so unique. You just couldn't teach anyone that. So another player that's brilliant for the game, and nice to see him back in the winner's circle. I just wonder what he's feeling about his game, if he's going to change it up at all, if he's going to keep it the same. I have no idea. I don't think anyone else does, and I'm fascinated for 2026.
I saw some variance in him in this match where he was coming forward a little bit. Yeah. And maybe that's Thomas Johansson, who is his new coach now. We know he's won majors, and he's somebody that can work with great players. So I'm intrigued by this. I thought it was cool, right? Like everything about, you know, obviously we feel bad for Mute, who's still just trying to get that first title, and he brings a lot to the game too. But everything about the post-match was great, from the costumes that they wore, from the fact that Medvedev dedicated it to his daughter and was trying to, you know, become a little bit more mature. I think if he can rein it in, right, you don't want to change who you are. Like you don't want to give up what brought you to this elite level. But if he can find some more maturity and sprinkle in some variance, doesn't have to be a serve and volley player, but I think he's still got the game and underrated athleticism. So I'm with you. I think that we haven't heard the last of Daniil Medvedev.
I would love to see him become a serve and volleyer.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's just test it. Just go for it, Daniil. Go for your next tournament, serve and volley every point. Let's see how you do. I think players might surprise themselves.
Yeah. Well, this was a weekend of players kind of getting back in the mix and gaining some confidence on the men's side, because we saw that in Stockholm with Casper Ruud. He was someone that, again, you could say needed a win, or, you know, hadn't been having a great year, dealt with injuries, obviously, too. But he hasn't looked better, for my money, on a hard court than what we saw this weekend. It was almost flawless. He lost one set to Sebastian Korda. He absolutely smoked Hugo Humbert, who is a very good indoor hard court player in the final. Casper looked like he's back to, you know, where he was, and all these guys are oddly enough pushing for the ATP Finals, the final spots. But what did you think, Candy, of Casper and how he looked winning the Stockholm title?
Yeah, I just wasn't really sure what to expect. A bit like Daniil Medvedev, what we were going to get from Casper Ruud. I know, having spoken to him in Tokyo, that obviously he wants to get to the final 8, get to the season ender. That's a big one. But of course, Ruud is going to get married soon. He's going to have a baby daughter, I believe, in January. I really like the way he goes about things. He sort of pulls himself away from the grass court scenes, and doesn't he? He doesn't really want to engage. In Tokyo, where we were, he and Zizou Bergs went to make ramen. So we went into the restaurant with them, and Casper's dad was there. We actually did a really lovely interview with Casper's dad, Christian, who's just so relaxed. And he's got a very small team, generally a team of 2 that go with him for the regular tournaments. You know, it's not like the Alcaraz 18 people. It's all quite low key. Casper's just a fantastic guy, so educated, so well rounded, loves his golf. So good to see him back in the winner's circle as well. Sebastian Korda is one of those, Mitch. He just is there, but he's not quite there, is he? We saw him test a couple of guys in Tokyo, one around there. And then, as you said, lost to Casper Ruud 6-4 on the third. I'd love to see Sebastian Korda go on to the next step. I believe it's probably going to take not getting injured for a while and just having a run of good form. But he's so there. Maybe mentally he's just slightly lacking on the big moments against the big guys. And that's where Casper Ruud is not lacking at all, is he? I mean, he knows when a big point is. You know he's going to make a first serve. You know he's going to make a return. But he's a champion on indoor hard courts in Stockholm, a tournament which is so close to many of the Scandinavians' hearts. It's an old school tournament, if you've seen it, with the wooden chairs that all the fans sit on. Bjorn Borg's there every year.
I think it's one of my favorite scenes, the scenics, the acoustics. I love the indoor Stockholm scene. Like it's up there. I have no notes on that. And you also kind of, you know, you're expressing my pain as an American tennis fan with Korda. Like we just think, okay, he's got the game. There's so much to like. We're going to hold out hope. It's like you were saying with stock trading. We're just going to hold on to it. We're not going to sell. We're going to go down with the ship.
Long hold.
The other thing you said too, and I'm glad you brought him up, because I was wondering just how funny is that guy, Zizou Bergs? Because he seems like he's got one of the best personalities on tour.
One of my new favorites. I'd never met him face to face. I've commentated on a lot of matches, including the US Open match this year, which was really painful to watch. He had probably his worst match of the year. But he is so lovely. We actually spoke, I think the first match I did was a few years ago, where it was his girlfriend was there and his dog was there. And it was a tournament where they all brought their dogs. I don't know quite why, but I'm a big favour. I love dogs. I think every tennis tournament should allow dogs, cats, rabbits, whatever you want. It's fine. So Zizou obviously loves his dog. And I just got chatting with him, and I just really like him. We actually talked about him approaching the net more, being a little bit more aggressive. He was actually asking my opinion a little bit, and I was happy to give it. I mean, he doesn't need to listen to it. I really like his coach. I met his coach and his fitness trainer. They seem like a really nice team. I just think he's great. He really loves serve and volleying. I just love when players come forward and sort of have that flamboyance, not all the time, because you can't do it in today's game all the time. Can't be too predictable, but he is one of the most attacking net players there is out there. So big fan. I would, that's a buy. Zizou Bergs is a buy for me.
Did you ask him if he's going to get into rugby after the Davis Cup incident with Christian Garin?
I did not ask him that. Maybe I should next time, though. I promise. Maybe explain that one, Mitch. Go into depth on that one so everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was a moment at the Davis Cup where they made some contact inadvertently. I think Garin was better than he was letting on. I'll just leave it at that. But no, I like Zizou Bergs. I'm a fan too. I like personality. And I think it's good when you have these players that, he went up to Djokovic in Shanghai and it's like, I have to stop idolizing you at the net, which was pretty funny. So, no, it's great for him. But on the flip side, though, Candy, the serious stuff, you mentioned it before, brutal news for Holger Rune, the injury. We know at this point it's Achilles related. We'll see what that means. It is going to be a long-term recovery. You can look up the projections on there when that's going to be. I don't want to speculate on this show. But it's going to be a while before he plays competitive tennis on the court. It's just brutal for Holger, given the fact that he had been trying to build towards the end of the year. He's trying to be in the mix of the very, very top guys. This is not what anybody wants to see injured in Stockholm. Just a brutal, brutal thing. So our thoughts with Holger and just a tough break that this game unfortunately offers sometimes.
It's one of the worst injuries, isn't it? I believe it is a torn Achilles tendon. His mum confirmed that. I spoke briefly with Mike James, who does his data. You'll have seen Mike because he always wears the Moratoglu hat and has the glasses. And he just said it was just, devastating because Holger's finally, I think, and we all know his potential. He has a win over Novak. He's got a win at 1,000 level. And he's now got a team that seems solid. He's got everyone in place. He's back with his childhood coach, Lars Christensen. Mum's traveling again. Mike's often there. And Nico's a personal trainer. And I just think he was slowly, incrementally making gains. And then this has happened. And he is very young. He's got time to come back from it. But, you could say a million times, you've got time, you'll be fine. But when you're in that kind of injury, it's just horrific. He's 22 years of age, currently ranked 10 in the world as we speak. So we're probably looking best case scenario 4 months, worst case scenario 6 to 8. I don't think we'll see him back before April next year. He needs to give it time because you cannot rush back from that kind of injury. But he is incredibly fit. It's just a real devastating blow. But you've got to look on the bright side. Maybe this is a good rest for him. Comes out of the game. He's been playing at the top level for a long time. Maybe he just settles back. He's got a lovely home in Monte Carlo. Maybe he goes and sits and watches the ocean waves for a while and just thinks about what he's going to do to get even better when he comes back. And maybe he'll look back at this time and say, well, it was actually the best thing that could have happened. We'll see.
Patience is going to be the key for him, how he's able to. And it's tough, right? He's one of the best athletes in the world, and his whole life has been competing, getting ready. Taking yourself off the hamster wheel can be tough. But as we know, there's a lot more examples now of players taking a break, coming back, and succeeding. So the challenge and the trick is with this crazy world of pro tennis is when you do come back, the tour is not waiting for you. They're not easing you back in. So he's got to be smart, and his body has to respond. And we wish him the best, but it's very tricky. So that's all we can do is just wish him the best.
Well, you see when a player comes back from injury, like Ben Shelton, who obviously wants to make the season ender, and then he wants to finish number one for the USA because then he'll play the United Cup where you got big points. Coming back from an injury is not easy. I'm just looking at Shelton's results. So obviously went down, didn't he, against Adrian Manarino at the US Open, then came back for Shanghai, but was beaten by David Goffin in straight sets. So it takes a while. You got to give yourself a couple of matches, a couple of months really, to get back to anywhere near top form.
It's another tough one too, right? In that Manarino match, which was brutal, you saw the internal struggle of an elite athlete where he wanted to keep going and his dad had to say, look, big picture. And I get it. It's very hard for someone in it to be like, what do you mean? I could just fight through this. But
Yeah.
it's brutal. So again, Ben's another one that we hope he gets back to full health and has a great 2026 as he finishes 25. But the last guy to talk about, Candy, from last weekend was newly married minted man, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's got a new wife and a new trophy for his cabinet as well. So he looked great in Brussels. And by the way, he usually plays well this time of year. I don't know what it is about Felix, but he finishes the season strong. And when he's positive and when he's feeling good, he's tough to beat.
I tell you what it is about Felix Auger-Aliassime. He loves indoor courts.
Yeah.
He just loves it. So he loves February and he loves this time of year because the tour starts to move indoors. So he's playing Basel this week, and I'm sure he'll do very well. I actually know his coach Freddie Fontang really well, and we were speaking in Cincinnati about maybe little changes that Felix could do. I think he's a little bit too mechanical. I don't know how you feel when he steps up to the line and serves. He probably overthinks it a bit. And obviously the backhand is where the wrists just get a little bit stiff and he looks a little unsure of himself. Once he's hitting forehands and getting first serves in play, especially on indoor courts where it's a little bit quicker and there's less conditions to worry him. I mean, he's just an incredible player. Up to 10 in the live rankings. That's superb. And as you say, when things are settled off court and he's married, he's so happy. He's got this little bounce. We saw it with Denis Shapovalov, who recently got married as well. There's going to be a lot of weddings coming up in the next few months. And then I suspect a lot of babies as well, about, 9-10 months after that. So we've got a lot of exciting things to look forward to, particularly on the ATP Tour side of things. But there's no doubt that a happy person off the court is a happy player and a better player on it, because it just leads to a natural transition. And of course, vice versa, when things aren't going well off court, it transitions very fast on court.
Heck of a title run. Beats Musetti, beats Yuri Lehechka in the final. They're not easy. And yeah, I even saw him let out a little dance after. So he was feeling pretty good, which we like to see. Winding things down with Candy Reid here on the Inside in Tennis podcast as we gear up for the final push of 2025. Candy, did you have any thoughts on what we saw at the Six King Slam, where we, exhibition, but still some things to monitor? Yannick Sinner wins again, which gives him a lot of money for maybe not the hardest work. 6 million for a couple sets of work, which is good. We saw Fritz beat Zverev again, which just happens everywhere you go. And unfortunately, Djokovic retired in his match against Taylor Fritz. So I don't know if we take too much away from this or we just monitor the spectacle. But what were your final thoughts on the Six King Slam?
I don't think we take too much from it, but it is hugely beneficial for those who play it financially, so you can totally understand. I just think the people that played it need to make sure that they don't start saying, the season's too long, I'm playing too many matches.
That's Yannick Sinner, right? Like, and props to him for winning, but the schedule came out last week where it was like, not going to play Paris. He's playing this week, in Vienna, I believe. But he's not going to play Davis Cup. He's not going to play Paris. But there was no way he was skipping the Six King Slam. That just wasn't going to happen.
No, that's the problem with so much money. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in favor of it massively. I think that the players should be focusing on the tour. And if they can fit these exos in, then do so, as long as you can do everything. I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of a bad look, personally. But I'm not being offered 6 million, so maybe if I put my name in the ring.
Not going to begrudge them for taking the money that is offered. But that said, I mean, there's still a lot of drama for that ATP Finals spot. We don't know what's going to happen with Novak Djokovic. I could guess and say maybe he won't play, but 18 times qualifying for the Tour Finals in his career is just insane. Another insane stat for Novak.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play. He's said very honestly, hasn't he, that he wants to win majors and he wants to win the Davis Cup for Serbia and the Olympics in 2028, if you can believe that, in LA.
Wow.
I still think, I mean, he is amazing. He's the best player of all time. There's no doubt. There's no arguing. I'm just so surprised that he didn't quit after the Olympics last year. I just think it would have been the most beautiful way to end a phenomenal career. But he obviously loves it. He feels like he's got a lot more to give, and he certainly does, given how good he is still.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he going to last till 2028? What do you think?
I don't know about that. I would say, though, that there's no perfect time to retire because even if you go out on top, you're probably leaving stuff left in the tank. So you either leave too much in or don't have enough left. So there's no
Yeah,
perfect time of like retire right now.
yeah,
But it's going to be tricky because he's still, third in the race, I think. So he can be a big match player. He's got the two guys in front of him that are tough to beat. What would be possible to beat them? I don't know if there is an answer, but maybe playing more tennis leading up. Then you have to worry about, are you exhausting too many energies? It's
yeah.
it's an impossible problem in a lot of ways, but we'll see. I just think I'm just like I said last week. I appreciate any time we have left to watch this guy play.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's absolutely the best. The greatest of all time.
mm,
I mean, it's a null and void point. There's no point arguing. It
mhm.
is absolutely true. I mean, the numbers are all there for us to see, and it's incredible that he's already qualified again for the season ender. But yeah, my thought is that he won't play. Why would he?
Who do you think gets in? Do you have any idea of who gets in the last spots? I was looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
I kind of think Felix, the way he plays, can get on a run here and be getting in, but it's
Yep.
tricky. It also shows you the point totals, how top heavy it is with the top two guys, Sinner and Alcaraz,
Oh,
is
well,
miles
they've
ahead.
just, yeah, they've got the two slams each, don't they? Just incredible season. Yeah, I'm just looking. So Lorenzo Musetti is number 8 and Felix number 9. This is if Novak plays,
I
and then
don't.
there's Casper. So yeah, it's. I would say Felix, given that we're now indoor season, I think he just feels so comfortable on these courts.
Mhm.
So yeah, if I had to guess, I think Felix Auger-Aliassime is going to get that last spot.
So you can go Musetti, Felix, and then if Djokovic doesn't play, it could be Casper or Medvedev. So
Yeah,
it could be a
exactly.
pretty interesting final for sure. And also want to shout out somebody else in the mix. Alex de Minaur won his 300th career match the other day. So pretty remarkable how he's come and how he's elevated his career. Talk about giving up some strengths with the size factor. 300 career wins, just working his bag off every time. Pretty remarkable.
A few years ago, he was outside the top 10, and I didn't honestly believe that he was going to get into the top 10. I just thought
Hmm.
a guy of that stature, I mean, his heart is his superpower. He said that most times, hasn't he? And he is incredible. And I think he's done way better than I thought he would do. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how everybody listening feels, if they would have predicted that Alex de Minaur would be a top 10 stalwart.
Hmm.
Actually commentated on the match that he beat Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in at the Washington final, where
Oh
he
wow.
saved match points. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. He would be the guy, if you went to war, if you needed something done, you would put Alex de Minaur first up. You just put him there. I'd want him on my team. If I'm playing football, I don't know how his soccer skills are, but
Yeah.
I want him in my team because
Yeah.
he would be like the Cloud Makaleli guy who played for Chelsea. He would
Yeah.
just be running all over the field. He would just be falling over with sweat and mud and grease on him, and he'd just get up and go again. And well, you've got to, I mean, just respect that guy
Uh-huh.
through and through. What a phenomenal competitor he is. And just looking through, yeah, all the names. I mean, he's by far the smallest in height and built, isn't he? But
Hmm.
I mean, he's up there and he's going to give it all he's got at the season end. Remarkable.
Just works so hard, and it's a testament to how he was brought up, just his ability to stay in the fight, like that DC match you called
Yeah.
against Vakina, which was remarkable. The last thing I have, Candy, and this has been fun, but I did catch in Basel yesterday, Jakub Mensik. He beat Henry Bernet in Burnet's first match as a pro on that tour level in Basel, the 18-year-old Swiss kid who won the junior AO. So I was curious to watch this kid. He played well, won a set, like 6'3", decent
Okay.
size. So I think he could be another one to watch. We got another Swiss player that might be on the radar.
Well, that is exciting. I'm actually going to Saudi Arabia and Jeddah in December for the next gen. And it's just a
Oh.
tournament I absolutely love. It'll be the third time. So a couple of years ago, that was when I met the likes of Hamad Medvedev, who won it. He beat Artur
Hmm.
Fies in the final. And Kaboli was playing there. Nardi was playing there. Artur Casso was an alternate. Artur
Hmm.
Casso is my favourite player. I think Artur Casso, in a few
Yeah.
years, if not next year, is going to be
All
a
right.
breakout star. Record this, keep it, because
Got it.
I just have a feeling. I have a feeling about this guy. He's so flamboyant, so fun. So if anyone hasn't heard of him who's listening, Go and watch a match by Arctic So. You won't be disappointed, whether he wins or loses. He's just great. But Jakub Mensik was there last year. Alex Michelsen was back again. Lerna Tien lost to João Fonseca in the final in the next gen last year. So it's really an indication of who's going to step up. And Mensik is just incredible, isn't he? What a lovely guy he is. He's so personable. His parents were out there. A lot of the next gen players bring their families because they're all covered. They all come out on the plane and they all get beautiful accommodation, get looked after so well. So you kind of get to meet the whole family. And Mensik just seemed really well supported. I think he's a wonderful player. And I don't unfortunately know this young Swissman, so I need to keep an eye on him. But that's exciting for Swiss tennis. There's a young German guy that we did actually in the Davis Cup recently that I was really, really impressed with. So there's a few youngsters that are starting to come up that haven't got big names yet.
We're getting there. The new generation is coming. It's going to be exciting. Candy Reid, always a blast. We're going to follow you along, with the Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach podcast, as well as your commentary. Always a pleasure. Hope this was fun for you as well, but it's always a blast talking tennis on the podcast.
No, brilliant. Thanks so much, Mitch. Thanks for having me. I'm available anytime and I'm relatively cheap, which is good.
That's always good. The check's in the mail both ways here. But that was Candy Reid. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. We hope everybody out there enjoyed the show. Once again, it's on all your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, as well as Amazon Music. And the YouTube channel is @MitchMichals, so subscribe to that as well. When you subscribe, you'll get every episode alerted. You'll get it downloaded in the audio form to your listening device. It's that simple. So we hope you're enjoying the final conclusion to the tennis season. More guests to come on this show. For Candy Reid, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. Thank you for watching or listening, and I'll talk to you soon.